LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and we're getting on with the day. So we're back. We're going to be talking a hell of a lot more with you about everyday stuff. We're going to be talking about sales, business, entrepreneurship. It's pretty informal, but there's a lot going on in a minute. I'm just sticking my extension cable back under there. So if you haven't been on it before, what I do is we're talking more around sales, business, and entrepreneurship. We work with a huge amount of people that are out there, and that's not just big companies, but we do. So if you're with us on TikTok, good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for joining in. So Zane has just put in, by the way, that there's a lot of people out there. So if you go on TikTok and you search David the Sales Angel, there's about 10 to 15 accounts at any one time of people impersonating to be me. So if you're seeing any of that, I'm not messaging you, asking you to invest. We're not doing any outbound messaging on anything like TikTok anyway. So don't message them, just block them, report it. I normally blocked me, so I can't do it. And as soon as I do block them, they normally pop up another one anyway. So TikTok, good to see you here. Thanks for popping in. If you get questions, pop them in the chat. Instagram, good morning, hello, good to see you. And then we've also got YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. So we're carrying on now from what we were talking about earlier. Jamie just said, you have a go. I appreciate you. Thank you. So run down on what we were talking about earlier, and then we're going to jump into training for probably about 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to be making sure that we're turning up on a daily basis. We're also going to be bringing together a group community, which is going to be bloody affordable, where everyone's going to turn up. We're going to start doing morning sales meetings. And we're going to make sure that we're getting people the right help they need without them to spend the big bucks like a lot of people do to work with us. So that's going to be really exciting. So get used to seeing us here. Dylan, good to see you here, buddy. And if you get questions, pop them in the chat, whether you're on Insta, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We're here to help. Okay, so Dan Ufa, insurance broker sales. Hey, Dave. Yo, Dave, how are you? I'm really good, actually. Thank you, Dan. I'm very good. How's the insurance broken world? Clips Haven says, I'm broke. What do you suggest doing? Get a skill that actually pays. This doesn't mean you have to do sales, but you can go today. If you're skint, go and dedicate 3 hours today and go onto YouTube and find someone you resonate with that does trainings. Go on the TikTok videos we've got here. You can learn how to go out and then get out there. Matt, hey, good to see you come back. Who else we got here? Kurt says, do you find cold calling gets repetitive? Okay, so if you're on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, Insta, good to see you, by the way. I don't do a lot of cold calling. I don't. I do cold calling maybe twice a month for about half an hour. So I've got a couple of people that do cold calling for me. We do a lot of training with them, and I will get on the phones to prove to my team that cold calling is easier, that needs to be done better. So I'll give you a prime example. Last week, my team, and I love my team are great. They do really well, but they were a little bit caught up in the weeds, and they were like, we're not getting through to as many people are hanging up on some more. I think we need to change the pitch. The data we're getting is not good enough. And I got a bee in my bonnet, and I went, bollocks. It's not the leads. It's not this. We're just slipping on our mindset. And I want you guys to think about this. If you're baking a cake and you leave it in the oven for 10 minutes too long, it's probably going to be a burnt cake or not cooked enough. It's the same as sales. You can be doing 10% off and just not get any results. So when you see me doing sales calls video and cold calling videos, they're either cold call videos, and I might do 5 in a day, and then we repurpose that content, or they're follow-up calls. I do a lot of follow-up calls that jump in there. So it's not just always that we're doing cold calls. People just seem to love the cold call stuff on there, but a lot of our stuff's actually follow-ups as well. We're doing a lot more follow-up calls, and then you're going to see a progression, and we're going to put more closing calls going in there, more B2B, more B2C, because we want to mix it up a little bit more. Great having so many people in, by the way, 64 of you on TikTok at the moment. When you are sharing out this, by the way, please do that, because it does share out the reach and give us a better reach for TikTok. Tapping the screen loads, increases the likes, that boosts it out as well. So I appreciate you. Mandela's here on Instagram. Anyone doesn't know Mandela, go and check him out. He's got a fantastic orphanage for 101 orphans, but we love to help. Math, we will be doing something out there. Math said we'd love to feature in one of the lives. Yeah, at some point we'll be doing that, my man. So we've got some other questions coming in, and then we're going to jump into the trainings. So if you've got questions, pop them in the chat. DBJ6662 says, I work as an account and executive for a tech startup. I found the sales to be slightly different. Yes. Okay, so let's touch on this. So when we talk about sales, right, sales is like saying sports. That's exactly what it is. It's not about the fact that a lot of people say, oh, yeah, no, I've done sales before. But it's like saying I've played sports before. You might be naturally good at sports, but it doesn't mean you're great at that sport to the standard compared to other people. You might be adaptable to different sports, like you've got good hand-eye coordination, so you can play different sports. But it doesn't mean that you are the best in that sport. And for a lot of people that are out there, they go from one sport to another and they think it's going to be the same, right? So when you look at going into something different, tech sales, for example, or B2B or B2C, because you've got the ingrained skills, my nose is itching, of doing some other sales before, you're likely picking it up quicker, but there's going to be massive differences. I'll give you a prime example. Going from a one call close, as in lead comes in or you call them, you sell them, take the money on the call, or a two call close where you're building interest, setting up a second call and going through. Just that's massively different. Let alone B2B, B2C. You can go B2B and go from a company that has no sales director to a sales director to a finance director, and there's different specs behind it. So what you've got to look at is what are the best ways that you can maximize from what you do, and then you've got to learn how to actually go off and do it. And that's the problem for a lot of people that are out there is they, oh, he's just put something else. Yeah, exactly. Some of the closes take months. Okay. So again, if you're doing more enterprise sales, so really long lead cycles, you've got to look at, imagine it's a street light, right? Imagine this is a road and you're at this end, right? The product's at this end, sorry, your prospect's this end. You've got to look at how long does it take to get them on that full journey from one end to the other. And then imagine street lights across that road. So for a two call close, there's two lights. Bang, close, right? On that road for a one call close, it's literally you're trying to get them from here to a close. On an enterprise sales, there might be 9 touch points. So then you've got to look at each touch point and how can you improve each touch point? What's the benefit for each touch point? And that's really where it comes a massive difference behind where you're at. God, my nose is itching today. Okay, hope that helps, buddy. Andrea says, Andrea says, I love your work and all your advice. I've learned so much from you, Sydney, Australia. Thank you, Andrea. Really glad you're finding it. What type of sales are you doing? Dan from insurance. I'm thinking about banning emails for a week to force our guys to pick up the phone. Right. So this is a really valid point. A lot of teams, they lean into emails because they're scared of rejection or they're not confident or it's a habit which has just been really ingrained. This is what we do with most companies we go into. That's exactly what happens. They are caught up in a habit of just doing emails. If you ever want to reach out to me, Dan, love to talk to you about it because we've got to give them the skills, the confidence and the ability. And there's some really clever things that you can do to get the team out there, which makes them have a lower level of resistance and increases the flow a lot quicker. And this is the same with sales, right? Whether you're selling your team or you're selling a product or service or your prospects, whatever it is, all you're doing is you're trying to lower resistance and increase flow. If you can lower the resistance and increase the flow, we're going to get more traction. So if you've got a team and they're not doing something, there's an elevated level of resistance and there's a reduction in flow. So what we've got to do is what can we do to grease the tires? What can we do to reduce the resistance? What can we do to slowly get some flow behind it? And then once we get it moving, we build up that traction behind it as well. Right, let's go through some other questions. Hey, Chris Brown, good to see you. By the way, anyone who's wondering what I'm talking to, so Insta, we've got TikTok, we've got Insta, and then my nose is itching. We've also got LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So I'm just trying to go through on questions. Getting loads of questions on TikToks here. So it's great. Anyone else who wants to put questions in, you're welcome to. Rory says, do you offer any grad training? Do you mean because you've graduated, as in joining us, or training on how to actually sell? Let me know. Jamie says, what's your thoughts on recruitment agencies in this market, stuck on staying or making a move? Okay. Every agency out there, every business is going to go through good times and bad times. Ask yourself this. As a recruitment specialist, what are the top people doing right now? And actually, how could you get to that stage? How quick can you get to that stage? It might be worth a change, but it might be the fact that actually what you really need to do is hone your skills to get to that next stage. Think of it like planting seeds. You might need to plant some good seeds for the next couple of months to really know and go all at it. I think there were some other questions. Billy says, how do you deal with the objection of being too expensive? Okay, so let's think about this for a moment. Billy, great question. Appreciate you. So, when someone's saying something is too expensive, first question is, when are they saying that it's too expensive? Are they saying it when they're like, I love this product. Oh my God, I wish I could have it. It's just too expensive. Or they're just going, God, that's too expensive. Or they're saying it based on something else that's out there. So it's not always about handling the fact it's too expensive. It's actually understanding, why are they saying that it's too expensive? So in your mindset, think this. Well, is it too expensive for what? Too expensive compared to what? Is it too expensive for their budget? Is it too expensive based on the results that they think they're going to get? So too expensive, there's a lot of underlying parts of this which you're not necessarily always thinking about. And you might be thinking it's this, and they might be thinking it's this. So let's think of it like this, for example. Let's say we've got Julie, and Julie's brought a product or a service before, and it was £10,000. And she only made £7,000 worth of results off it. The next time she hears about a program, she's going to have a comparison to her previous experience because that's what happened. So when you go, it's £10,000 because that's expensive, because she's judging it based on last time she only got £7,000 worth of results. Now let's think of another one. Let's say we've got John, and John's looked at a program before that was £2,000, and now your program's £10,000. John thinks that's expensive. It's expensive to the comparison he's got. And that's the big difference here, is when you've got someone out there and they're saying too expensive, you've got to understand, what do they actually mean? Are they saying it's too expensive, I can't afford it? That's not what they said. They said it's too expensive. So that's too expensive based on where they are right now, based on their experiences right now and their perspective right now. If you turn around to me and say that it's £10,000, but it's to buy a house that's £10 million, that ain't expensive. If it's £10,000 to buy a shed that's worth £100, that's expensive. So we've really got to look into it a little bit more. I hope that helps. Zane says, excuse me. Hi, Dave. Tips for in-person B2C sales, waste removal, typically give quote and try to close. Good point. So anyone who's stuck with this, we're going to break down some other stuff. The Jones says, Dave, I challenge you to go 3 minutes without using an analogy. It's physically impossible. All I do is tell analogies. Because I'll talk about this and we'll come back to the waste one. The reason I use so many analogies is we're comparing an unknown to a known. And if I compare an unknown, so something you don't necessarily know or perspective, to something you can relate to, you are drawn in. And again, it increases the likelihood of flow because you have a relatable experience behind it. If you're trying to go to something new, and sales is about change, that's what we're getting people to do, is change. So if I'm getting you to change, I'm getting you to go out of your comfort zone. And if I'm going to get you out of your comfort zone, there's going to be a level of uncertainty. So if there's a level of uncertainty, what I can do is increase the certainty by comparing what you don't know to something you have confidence in. So that then increases the flow and it removes or reduces resistance. Right, let's go back to Zane. Zane, good to hear from you. Drop me a DM if it can ever help. So go back to Zane's question. Tips for in-person sales, B2C, waste removal. Typically, give a quote and try to close. So what I think about this is, one, are you offering them, for example, a free quote? What are you doing between each stage? How are the leads coming into you? Are you knocking on doors? Is it a Facebook lead? Is it paid advertising? Is it coming from a directory? There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle we have to understand before we can give a full diagnosis. If it was my business, and this is completely off the cusp, right? And someone said to me, here's a waste removal company, and we're getting inbound leads that are coming in. Before we even went out to them, we would understand their perspective of what they're expecting to pay, right? And I would be pre-qualifying them about the urgency and the requirement and the pain points. I would also then go out and I would build out a list of all the benefits of them delaying by not having this done. It is not about the waste removal. For some people out there, getting the waste removal done quickly is more important than anything else. Other people having it removed properly is going to be more valuable for them. Other people removing the waste and it not being a shithole after is going to be more important. So it's actually, when you're trying to close a lot of this business, is understanding what they're actually trying to achieve. It's not just about getting rid of a waste. What again is going to increase their resistance and reduce their flow? Previous experiences, judgment, expectations around cost, time frames, all that stuff makes a massive difference. Reach out if we can help. So let me look on here. Lloyd Campbell Consultancy says sell on value rather than price. So price is fine. Selling price. What we've got to have is so we've got to have a perceived value. We've also got to perceive the level of risk. So what we've got to do when you're looking at selling on value, I believe, and this is something which you can think about, right? Make the cost, or you want to have the cost to be at a level of the worst case scenario. So imagine for the moment, I pitch you my program and I say it's £10,000, but you're expecting to make 120,000. That's the expectation. And on a bad day, we'll make you 50,000. And on our worst day, like the very worst we would ever make would be 30,000. And your belief would be 10,000. If you believe that the worst case scenario is still going to be greater, or at least level to the cost, then it's far easier for you to sell it. Because the worst case scenario is I give you 10, I get 10 back. For a lot of businesses, what actually happens is when they sell it, the price they've charged is likely to be similar to half to 3/4 away the likelihood of result, which means there's still an elevated level of risk, which reduces the level of flow. Again, becomes the problem we've got. I don't know what your name is, bud, but you put, I'm doing cold calling and sucks in it. I don't know if you suck or cold calling sucks. If you suck at doing something, get better at it. Put the effort in, learn it. It's a skill. Like sales is purely a skill and it's something you can learn. But a lot of the time we're learning from the wrong people. Frankie says, Dave, I really love your content. Best out here on TikTok. Frankie, I love you. TA says, how to develop a good script and build urgency. So here's the big thing that we have. When we say about this, it's so generic, it's hard to advise. When we say how to develop a good script and build urgency. So how to develop a good script depends on B2B, B2C, who you're selling to. For example, if you've got a 1 call, 2 call, 3 call close, all massively different. The intention behind it is very different. The amount of decision makers, very, very different. The price point, very, very different. How things are normally done within the industry, very, very different. But the main aim behind a pitch is to have an elevated level of curiosity that you're generating with people. And if you can elevate their level of curiosity, it's easier to get to the next stage. And then what you're doing is building a gap that's so big. And that's where the urgency comes from, where they go, I need to take action now. Without help, I cannot achieve this. I hope that helps. Reach out anytime. Right. So I've got some other stuff on here. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum. There's loads of questions. Right, it's cool. Right, so we'll go back to these. Frank says, how do you handle the objection of price too high? Again, go back to what we said earlier. Think about when you're talking about price, you've got to look at so many different parts. Are they saying that this is too high compared to what I know? This is too high for the perceived value. This is too high for the likelihood of success. And until you know which one of those it is, it's hard for you to know which path to go down. What you want to have with a conversation is, okay, when we go down the pitch, we go down the river, we get to this objection, there's 3 reasons why. Price too high because of value, price too high based on experience, price too high based on predicted outcome. Then you can have a handle behind that. So if someone out there has got a comparable, it's far easier to use an analogy to move into it. I hope that helps, Frankie. Reach out anytime. Stuart says, what would you say a good salesman BDM account should expect salary-wise? Okay. So Stuart says, what would you say a good salesman BDM account exec should aim for salary-wise? About 3 years experience. It's not about your experience, I believe. It's about what you sell. So you could go out as a BDM on a low-graded product that there's not a lot of sales opportunities in there, so then you can't bring as much revenue in. I would look as a salesperson, you want to see, if you're looking at BDM and AEs, as a rough idea, if you can make the company 10x what you earn, they're going to be happy. So, for example, if you're earning 100 grand, but you're bringing in 1 million, 2 million quid, that's not bad. The problem with a lot of businesses is we're looking for the salary, not based on the commission. And actually, what I think, if you're really going to get into sales, especially if you're eventually going to set your own business, is you want to be at the stage where you don't need the salary as much. You need the structure in place where you can base more, you can make more based on the results that you've got. Andrea says, thank you, Dave, you're a legend. Thanks, Andrea. Good to see you here. I hope Australia's good. Jamie, my big objection is that they don't have the budget or the space for the item. Okay. So again, is this a qualified prospect of someone you could sell anyway? Space on the team, sorry. So it depends on what you're actually selling. Jamie, I think with a lot of stuff, maybe drop me a message on this. Businesses don't have budget for things they don't see a value behind of. And also, if someone turns around to me now and says, have you got 100 grand you can give me? It's a no. If someone said to me, there's a £2 million house that's just come up, and do you want to buy into it? I'm going to be far more inclined to try and find the budget for 100K because there's something that's that much more value. But maybe drop me a message if that helps. Oliver Gledhill, just started using your opening in the office this morning. Best response I've seen. Yes. Oliver, well done. I don't know which one of the openings you're using, but that's really good to see. I'm proud of you, buddy. Tim Talk, just popping in between meetings. Good man. Dave, I'm just to see if we're a good fit. Jordan says, I've been running the family business and want to get into sales, but not getting an interview. What's your family business? Can you not grow that? Max Lowe says, start with why. Well, you can do, for sure. I've just lost everyone. Oh, crap. Right, there we go. Ryan says, Dave, I work in logistics. Sales is different to yours. Often I already use someone else. Yeah, good. Everyone always has a fix. It's different. Most of the time, if you're selling a service, especially, they already have a solution. Either they have a team-based solution for a product, so they're spending on wages, they don't need that, or they have a competitor already. So it's very, very different. It's very, very different. You're actually getting people to change. Think of it like this. If I want to get in, say I'm a window cleaner and I want to pitch Ryan to let me clean his windows of his house. If I've been using a window cleaner and it's my dad for the last 10 years, it's hard for you to get a change. If I don't have a window cleaner, it's far easier. If I've got a guy down the road I don't know and he's only been with me for a month, it's a lot easier. If I've got someone who's shit at what we do, it's a lot easier. So you've got to be able to look at it as well. I keep clicking off stuff. Crap, sorry. How can I get better at this? It's often already out there, and not so much a cold call. If you're doing follow-ups, it's really about building out the strategy behind your client journey. A lot of the time, if you've already got leads in there, it's about the follow-up you're really putting in place. A lot of people just get in a routine of following up with people instead of working out what can I actually do in that phone call, email, conversation to make their life better. And that's what makes a big difference. Goose says the drill bit is merely the ends to mean what people really want as a whole. Yeah. Thanks, bud. Great seeing too much. Ollie says use the MEDDIC framework. I've done 20 years of sales training. And so I've studied so many different courses, most things, hey, Paul. Most people out there and most programs you've got have got a blend of stuff. You said you'd call me back on Sunday and you never did. I don't know. Are you asking me that question? So ID Caney, Mr. TBH. I don't know if you're saying that to me or that's an objection you've got. I've never said I'd call you back on a Sunday because I don't talk to people on Sundays, for especially new business. We do it for clients if they pay for the Batman service. Aidan Southgate, what's a good objection handle when you're using someone who says you're expensive compared to your competitors? Okay, so this is a good question. So when people are saying to you that you're more expensive than the competitors, you have to break down all of the benefits of using you over them. And I calm things down. If people turn around to me and say, oh, but why would I bother using you when you're more expensive than them? So for example, I'm more expensive than other sales trainers, right? I am. There's other people out there that are far more expensive than me. So when someone turns around to me and they say, we'll use me as an example, and they say, you're more expensive than them. So, well, listen, if we put them both in a race next to each other, me and the competitor, and we go off, who do you believe is going to get you the better results? Now, if they say to me, I believe they would, I'd say this, why haven't you started using them yet? Because often they haven't. And then you'll find out there's actually a reason they haven't started using that person anyway. And it's not necessarily about price. It's normally about the belief from anyone that they're going to get the results. So when you've got someone out there that says someone's expensive, you need to find out, well, if they're that cheap, why haven't you started using them? And if they say they have, so why would you be on a conversation with someone out there? There's often something that they're not doing or they don't like. Just because they're cheaper doesn't mean they're better. I'm not buying cheap brakes on my car because I want to make sure in the worst case scenario, when I'm in a car with my kids, if someone pulls in front of me or it rains and I've got to slam my foot on the brake in an emergency, I want to know that car stops. So just because something is more expensive, it doesn't mean that I won't buy. Jamie says, where you're located? South Coast, my man. Not Cameron Turland says, I'm a top salesman and I want to work for you. Want my CV? I don't care about CVs. And I'm not looking for anyone at the moment. Montana says, any sales books that you recommend? Most sales books focus on motivation rather than process. Depends what you're looking for. I read books, so I'll have sales books. I typically absorb things better by voice or video. So if you're looking for a book, is there a reason why you're looking for a book over a process? Sales is so much more about tone than it is about word. And tone you cannot pick up in a book. So I always think, look at stuff like that as well. Okay. On Insta, we've got Ronman says, money to value, the bigger the value to the specific business. Robin says, money to value, the bigger the value to the specific business or person, the more money will not come out. Yeah, I mean, if they, again, go back to house analogy, if it's a £2 million house for 100 grand, people are far more out there. Paul says more expensive for you, yes. Ian Welsh, what's one thing that kills deals during the sales process? Waffling, talking absolute bollocks, sounding like a salesperson, being too hungry for the deal, not to help the person. A lot of salespeople get really caught up. There's a level of arrogance around sales. You'll get some people have no confidence and other people out there. I had a guy today, he might even end up on this call. He was messaging me about video editing. I don't want a video editor. Not because I don't need one. We've tried out video editors and actually all our content, the majority of our content that does really well on TikTok, that gets us the most clients, is fly on the wall documentary style, low grade, doesn't need to be high quality. And he couldn't get his head around it. And that guy, to answer your question, was insisting that what he had was actually the best thing for me. But he didn't once understand what my business actually really did. He was basing on an Instagram page. And an Instagram page for me doesn't necessarily bring in 90% of my business. It's 5% of my business. Home hope that helps, Ian. I hope you're doing well. Jordan Anderson, any tips on getting in a sales job with no experience, been running a family business? Okay, so if you want to get into sales without experience, I can't stress this enough. Learn how to sell. Like, invest into it. Imagine for the moment, whoever said about analogies earlier. Imagine you want to play football, right? And no one's getting you on the team. If you go out and you prove to people by being great at football, you're going to get a space on the team, right? If we're watching a team play football and you're on the side doing amazing tricks and skills, what's going to help is the team then seeing you doing those tricks or skills and go, shit, that guy's good. Not just standing there and saying, let's get on the pitch, let's get on the pitch. You've got to make it undeniable that your skills are so good. Hope that helps. Ben says, I'm in sales myself. Love your content. Do you have any tips for staying organized in sales? Yeah, stop overcomplicating what you're doing. A lot of businesses we go to, they are so heavy on all this nonsense. It doesn't move it forward. Think about IPAs, income producing activities. Is what you're doing helping to make you money? If not, why are we doing it? And what can I do to make it quicker? We do a lot of that in the academy. Anyone ever wants to join the academy, by the way, go to Tusta, tusta.co.uk, tusta.co.uk. And if you put the code sales in, the first month, instead of getting 197 quid, it's 147, something like that. And we're going to be doing it soon, where we're going to be having a private group coaching for that as well. I'm an SDR. What tips do you recommend for smashing KPIs each time? Depends what you are doing. A lot of the time around KPIs, we get focused on activity rather than productivity. And a lot of the time with KPIs are good, but KPIs aren't a metric for results all the time. You can understand what to expect because of KPIs, but actually just doing numbers to get the KPI isn't as effective as getting results. Ian Wells says, have you ever found LinkedIn to be a good lead source before TikTok? TikTok's fucking unreal for me. Anyone who's on these now, we've got, 22 people here. I think we probably had 1,000 people go through the live on TikTok today. Instagram's a lot slower. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, they're okay. This stuff is so much better for what we do as a lead source because people are getting to directly see what we do. And this is why for us, doing lives, TikToks, sales call videos is the best because it shows what we do instead of us telling what we do. For us, that's just the best thing. And LinkedIn, we just don't get the reach on it as much. So LinkedIn is good. LinkedIn's like our CV. People will watch my TikToks and then go to LinkedIn, if that makes sense, and reach out anytime. Oh, why do I keep doing that? Jordan Anderson, I've been reading all the best sales books for the last 2 years and I have a good understanding. Just need an opportunity. But again, so when we look at books and practical are very different. Say I want to be a boxer and I've read all the best boxing books. What's going to make me a better boxer? Not understanding boxing, getting in the ring. That's what we need to be able to do. You've got to get in the ring. There's jobs out there in sales that you can go out now and get commission-only sales jobs. It doesn't mean they're going to be great jobs, but they're a great way for you to cut your teeth and get the experience and get good commissions as well. Ben couldn't agree more. Thanks, mate. You're very welcome. Reach out anytime. Vex44 says, how do you get past nerves of starting in sales industry? Okay, this is a really valid point. Nerves are completely normal. If we want to think what bravery isn't a lack of fear. Bravery is embracing the fear and getting on with it. So instead of letting nerves control you, think about fear and excitement. Imagine when you've been fearful, but sweaty palms, heart racing, your brain's racing. Now think of when a kid's excited for Christmas or whatever it is. It's the same thing. Our perspective is there. Here's the great thing. When you've got nerves, you've got high energy. So you want to go off and then do it. Go off and pick up the phone today and call someone. Go and get hung up on by 20 people. Like, just get out there and do the calls. You're focused on the result instead of focusing on the process. If you only focus on the result, there's a level of stress that comes behind it. If you focus on just doing the process right each time, the results will come. Natalie D says, hope that helps, by the way, bud. Natalie D says, advice on reaching out to email to introduce. Really depends what you're trying to do, Natalie. I am not an email expert. Do you know what? There's some really good things out there. Go and look at Lavender. Lavender's a really good app, and it will advise you on emails, and it rates them out of a scoring system. It's very clever. Ian Welsh, hope it helps, Natalie. Ian Welsh, I work in financial services, so TikTok is a shame. We can't tap into it regularly. Yeah, bit of a pain. WorkNet, any thoughts from retention process? Not really. Jamie, thanks. I guess I've been too picky. Yeah, so to go to that, Jordan, if you want to go off and get a sales job, think of it like being a footballer. Instead of trying to get into Chelsea straight away, get out there and play football, get good, score goals, then move forward and keep moving forward. Evan says, what's your... Oh, crap, it's 10 past. Evan says, what's your best method of tackling objections? Have empathy for the person, but have an understanding of their perspective of their objection is normally based on what they've been doing. So they've got negative experiences, previous experiences, perspective. They've watched the news, whatever it is, that's changed it. Vex helps. Thank you. Welcome. Going to hold off to the next year. Yeah, exactly. Bill says he's got a lot of the objection of going to hold off the investment for next year. You're going in for the close slightly too early, and you haven't breached the gap in the urgency for to get to that stage. Right, guys, I need to go. I've got 6 minutes to get on a call. So sorry, didn't answer the rest of the questions. We're going to be back on here on Monday. Have a good weekend. I've got to go and kick some ass, close some deals. Talk to you in a bit. I can't even close this one. So that TikTok. So that LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook.